today's tape is about the Bhagavad Gita. I have a translation I read here, a 2-volume set by a Yogananda or Paramahansa Yogananda. And the conclusion I made about reading the book, I didn't read the whole thing, kind of, spent maybe 2-3 hours on it, was that basically what he's pursuing or pushing is stasis. One achieves union with prime creator or supreme entity. I really like to say supreme entity because it doesn't really have a name. It may have a title, but it doesn't really have a name. And once having made that connection with supreme entity, whatnot, that's it. That's all you need to do. Well, my findings was that making connection with supreme entity is not so much the issue, but having things imparted to you from supreme entity in order to make you in equivalent status with supreme entity. Just achieving oneness with supreme entity isn't sufficient. Or I mean, it's a good start, but it's just coming up to the door. Supreme entity said to me that the ultimate thing he's looking for is for people to become like him, and he's more than happy to accommodate them. And there's no rush. There are certain reprisals for wrong action towards other people, but not necessarily wrong action towards God. And another thing I disagree with Yogananda is that it says, well, you must do right action primarily unto God. You also hear that in a lot of Christian circles. You got to do your services unto God. Well, God doesn't care whether you do the right action or not. He's not offended one way or the other. Whatever you do is going to benefit, ultimately is going to benefit you and benefit others with that. However, the right action, whatever it may entail, may in many cases maybe benefit you more than other people, or conversely, it might affect other people more than you. Otherwise, doing right action can't be approached from a sovereign moral moral issue. Another issue I want to bring up here too that goes concurrent with this is that it may well be the mistake of Yogananda and the people that taught him what he taught, and then kind of echo their sentiments. One of the things he does, he sits there and says, well, this is a scientific way to achieve connection. All right, well, that may be really true, the chakras, lining up with your body and that. But once having done that, one doesn't have to go back to those type of methods when not. You can if you want to, but ultimately it's once the door is opened, the spirit, or let's say a spirit, once the door opens you to that realm, there's no it's you can get back there anytime, anywhere, and just click it on and off with your mind. Your mind becomes the switch. You decide you want to do it, you're there. You want to do it anymore, you shut it down. Doesn't matter whether you have the physical quality of your body in a certain position or not. But that's all right. I mean, that's one way to do it, and it has some credence and some logic to it. Great, but in the overall thing, there really isn't no logic or credence with that. It can do anything it wants, and logic is after the fact. That the benchmark action has been had or established with that. Then you develop logic from there on out. Another thing too, you got people out there carrying on all day long, oh, nothing's real, and this world's not real. Well, this world is real relative to relative to another world, somewhat, because you can look at this world as like a down payment or a 10%. It's less compressed in terms of light and energy. Even the light and energy here is separated when one has to be burned to get to the other one. And the other worlds that this came from, and it's all connected with that. And there's worlds that are even beyond that. So, relative speaking to another world, yes, this is not total reality, or this is not a reality. We mean by total reality. But the mind's aspect of looking at this thing without the spirit says, well, everything's unreal, and goes according to an old model having to do with quantum mechanics, which is incorrect. That we have particles that are connected from one step to the next, and what keeps it together? Well, of course, that gets to the etheric field and the like with that. And again, it goes back from this other reality in which this is a lesser reality of that. like a training ground, like a probationary ground, like as if the whole planet or the whole solar system or the whole galaxy or this, whatever you want to call it, that's all here. It's kind of like a form of like a large purgatory, if you want. So, from the soul standpoint, yes, nothing is real, but from the spirit standpoint, there is something there. You report here to achieve a certain status when that. Even in fact, you could even say such things when that is a non sequitur. And then for those who sit there and say, well, God doesn't exist, blah, 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 blah. Well, I mean, the fact that you make a direction to decide to do something independent of somebody else is in itself a God action. Say, where can you point to it? What makes you do what you do in that? Is it a substance? Is it an area? Is it a muscle in the brain? What is it? When a person dies on that, where is that feeling of direction on that? Where is it? Okay, so, and then the other thing I just hit upon just recently is that a lot of times we, and Yogananda is sort of guilty of this too, and then I'll also mention another guy, John Robert Stevens, the submission movement to apostles and that. That it's kind of a throwback to the time of Samuel. These prophets were sharing the mantle of Samuel in terms of their connection with God, and everything. But what happens is they themselves become familiar spirits rather than become individual spirits that are developed separately and have separate mechanics when not there. So a lot of people, they say they follow Jesus or they follow this ministry, or they say John Robert Stevens, for those of you who know that is, the thing called Living Word Fellowship, and other groups that are like it, like Rick Joyner and this church up in Redlands, whatnot. I mean, there's hundreds of them throughout the United States, if not through the world. Submission. And my experience has been that unless you really get down to what your actual thing is, then on the backside you will submit to others, whatnot, in as much as you'll submit to the better benefit of them, rather than they submitting to you, whatnot. It's kind of it's a hard call. It's a very unusual thing. Everybody wants to achieve oneness, but this is not the place to achieve oneness. Oneness gets achieved once you've accomplished a certain accomplishment in the spirit on that. And for many people, that's a long ways off. Achieving the oneness ahead of schedule, almost like what we call a fellowship in a university, but I haven't gone to school, is a non sequitur. So these familiar spirits that we become by aligning ourselves with this ministry and not developing ourselves, it's the same. It's kind of a little bit more than the stasis when not, but it's detrimental to growth when not. We become the familiar spirits. So how can we then kick a familiar spirit out of our bodies when we're this familiar spirit ourselves? Wouldn't that mean we die? So it boils down to pursuing one's individual course of action, individual destiny, and how that is for you is strictly between you and supreme entity. For me to be able to tell you what that is, well, I can give you exercise, but ultimately it's your program.